Ben Fowlkes with Yahoo Sports here with former UFC middleweight champion Robert Whittaker. Now, Rob, I want to start off here. Obviously, this is a late change of plans for you going from fighting KHAMZAT CHIMAEV here. Tell me a little bit about how, on your end, the change of opponents happened, what you heard, and when you heard it.
Yeah, I guess it all happened over the course of a few hours. Coach pulled me aside and said Chimaev's out, and yeah, but we're working on it. And I left it to my team and the UFC, and which I will say a big thank you to, because they made sure the fight still happened. It would have been a catastrophe for me to have put all this work in and get over here for a fight not to have happened. So I'm very thankful for that, because this is how I provide for my family. This is how I earn a living. So it's quite important.
Well, that's one of the things I wondered was what the calculation is like when they offer you, IKRAM ALISKEROV as a replacement opponent. Were you in a situation where you just felt like, I'll take anybody you can give me. I just want to have a fight after all this work? Or was there any sort of thinking about, hey, here's who we thought we were getting, here's the kind of fighter we would like to get, and what we would like to see as far as a potential career boost out of it?
Yeah, not really, not really. You can't think like that. You can't pick your fights. I don't believe. That's not the industry we're in. I put on all the work. I know how to fight, and I understand as being the headline, in for the first UFC card in Saudi Arabia on ABC to air. I have a certain responsibility I have to, uphold as well. So yeah, I'm in the fight game. I'm ready. I'm fit. I'm healthy. I have a lot of experience to fall back on with with this. So mate, I was always going to fight.
What did you know about Ikram when they first mentioned his name, and what do you know about him now?
I didn't know anything about him, and then that's no disrespect. I think some people have taken my words out of context a little bit and putting it, like throwing that quote out there a little disrespectfully. But with no disrespect, I didn't know a lot about him. Then I did some research and watched some tape, obviously, because I'm about to fight him. And I understand, like, realistically, this guy might be a harder fight than Chimaev. He's a dangerous opponent with a dangerous skill set, and he's coming into this fight with absolutely nothing to lose, everything to gain. That level of threat has to be respected. So I am full focus on getting it over him.
What do you think you have to gain, especially as you said, you didn't know a lot about him. I think a lot of people didn't know a whole lot about him. If you beat Chimaev, that obviously would have been a big one. What do you feel like you have to get out of this one?
Well, I said at the beginning, like, this is how I make a living. Like that's a big one. That's a big part of it. And secondly, like, every fight makes me better. Every fight that I get into furthers my legacy. It furthers my career. It furthers my skill set. It furthers my fight mentality. So yeah, every fight I have, everything to gain.
Middleweight division seems like it's in an interesting spot overall right now. And I know, you're a smart guy. You've been in the sport a long time, and I know you've got to be following along and you know how kind of things work. What was it like for you to see, Sean Strickland becomes champion? And I would think if I were you, I would be going, that's a pretty good stylistic matchup for me. It's a fresh guy as champion that maybe I have a better shot of the UFC putting me in there with him. And then DDP becomes champion, and they think, okay, well, Rob just fought that guy. How do you kind of view those ups and downs as you're looking at the top of the division and trying to figure out, what it's going to take to get back to the title and what it's going to take to get the UFC to give you another shot?
You know what? It's something I've never really focused on, and it's something I don't really focus on now. All I know is that winning fights, and this is the hard truth of the sport, winning fights will open doors for you, no matter what. No matter what, winning fights will open doors. So I'm just focusing on what I can control, which is doing all the work, ticking all the boxes before I step into that octagon to try and face off with another guy that wants my spot. So yeah, I think that sums it up.
Now, I got to ask about this because the podcast I co-host, the Co-Main Event podcast, we were where the Bobby Knuckles nickname originated. One of our listeners came up with it. We popularized it and everything. We've watched from afar as you've gone through a few different stages of, acceptance on the road to acceptance of this nickname that we love and that it seems other people love too. Where are you at with it now? How do you feel about it now?
Well, mate, well, I didn't realize it originated from you guys, from your podcast. So I want to say a big thank you. I
You're
think
welcome.
I think it's at first it was just something that was just thrown around a bit, and then it became it stuck with me so hard that I ended up making shirts for it, and then I have my kids calling their teddy bears Bobby Knuckles, and they don't even know who Bobby Knuckles is. Like when they first started throwing around the name, they didn't even know who he was, and I go, "Who's Bobby Knuckles?" And he goes, "My teddy," because they've just heard people mention it around the place, but they know now because I had to tell them.
What's that conversation like where you have to be like, no, I'm Bobby Knuckles. Like, I think, do they think that's strange?
Well, yeah, it's like I think you can picture what the conversation's like with a 5-year-old trying to explain why I'm Bobby Knuckles.
Well, it is fun to say, I mean, I could see why a kid would latch on to it and everything. And, it pops up in the video game and everything. And I also feel like one of the reasons I think we even started having the conversation was because when we learned that your nickname was the Reaper, and we were like, I mean, I guess you're a scary dude inside the cage, but you're such a nice guy outside of it. It didn't seem like it fit to us. Did it seem like it fit to you? Like when people started doing the Bobby Knuckles thing, where you're like, but no, I'm the Reaper. I've always thought of myself as the Reaper.
Well, you see, at first, like it was a bit like that. It was just kind of like a fan name, a name that the fans kind of threw around. But I don't know. I got attached to it. I got attached to it because I don't know. It reminded me a little bit of home. Bob's a nickname for Robert, and I don't know, Bobby Knuckles. I don't know. It also has like a real Australian ring to it. I don't know why. It just does. So I don't know. I latched onto it. I like it.
You're headed into this fight, especially at this stage of your career, where it seems like a lot of the things fighters want out of a career you have already had, like the championship, the respect of your peers, a really strong fan base. You're kind of beloved by both like the media, the fans, in a way that very few fighters manage to be. I mean, at least a lot of people who rise to this level get polarizing to one extent or another. How do you kind of view this stage of your career as far as like how people perceive you versus how you perceive, where you are and what you're still in it for?
Um, with pride, like I'm very proud of, I guess the legacy that I've created. The career that I've had. I've done things not necessarily the easy way or the fast way, but I've done things my way, and I've done things, the way that I view things should be done. And whilst it didn't give me the fastest uprising, my work spoke for itself, and I managed to get to where I am today. And I'm very, very thankful for that. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it because it's something that I can show my kids my story and be proud of every moment that and every stage that I have in it. And I think where I am today is the best part. I feel like I'm ticking boxes that weren't open to me before. I feel like I'm hitting milestones that I've never hit before. I feel like I'm hitting levels of fitness and strength and fight IQ that I just couldn't reach earlier. And I'm excited, mate. I'm excited. I think these are. I'm in my prime. I'm really just starting to hit my stride of bringing the best version of myself out, and I'm excited. I'm excited for myself, and I'm excited for the fans. I'm excited, yeah, yeah, for everything.
My last question for you, what advice would you give, especially for younger fighters who are in a similar situation where, hey, your opponent drops out the last minute, they want to come up with a replacement, you're trying to switch and think about a different type of opponent in a whole different fight, uh, so close to the fight. What advice do you have from your experiences? I mean, is it always the good idea to just say, "Hey, whoever you got, just as long as I can keep fighting"? Is there a different mental strategy you have to have going into it when the fight switches up? Like, what have you learned about those last minute fight changes?
Well, we are fighters at the end of the day. I don't I don't fight anybody in this game. There isn't a single fighter in this game that I don't think I can beat. Okay, and if I did think that if there was somebody that I thought I couldn't beat, I wouldn't be in this game, because that's the mentality that I have. I believe I can beat everybody, wholeheartedly. But secondly, as well, it's like I make my opponents worry about my game. I play to my strengths. I like to lead the fight into the avenues that give me the most advantage, because I can control that. No matter what my opponent does, no matter who my opponent is, I can control that.